Alright, yeah, welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be going back into the Best of One series where I showcase a deck that is pretty sweet in the Best of One format. Now, today's deck is going to be an interesting one. I reckon it's going to be a pretty polarizing kind of deck. People will love it or people will hate it. Today's deck is a Bant list, and before I tell you what the win con is, I'll give you a few moments to look at it and tell me what the win con is. Alright, now you've had your chance. The win con doesn't exist. There isn't one. This is actually a zero win con control list. Aptly named, Stop Milling Yourself. So if we do actually win the game, we actually win by our opponent drawing all 60 cards in their deck and losing to their draw step. So we actually don't have a way of directly winning the game. However, this deck cannot lose the game because we have Gaia's Blessing. Gaia's Blessing allows us to constantly shuffle our graveyard back into our deck and replay all of those cards. So what this basically means is the size of our deck is way above 60 in terms of how Magic is structured. We are running a 60-card deck, but we will be shuffling our graveyard back in over and over and over and over again to the point where our opponent can't possibly draw less cards than us. They will always draw their 60 before we draw all of ours. So this is basically how we're going to win the game. We can also use it in the early game as well to shuffle some really good cards back into our deck, and it cantrips into them as well, so it's really nice there. The idea behind the deck, though, and the way that it actually wins, is a combination of Wilderness Reclamation, which people really hate. I personally am 50-50 on it, but I really enjoy it in this list. It's a 4-mana enchantment. Says at the beginning of your end step, untap all the lands you control. So we basically float mana and spend our mana on our end step if we can do that. The best thing that we can do with our end step untap all lands is Search for Azcanta. So this is a 2-mana legendary enchantment. It says at the beginning, look at the top card of our library. You may put a card into your graveyard, and if you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform it into Azcanta the Sunken Ruin, which is a land. We can pay 3 and tap it, 4 total, essentially, to look at the top 4 cards of our library and pick any non-creature we want out of it, and put the rest on the bottom in a random order. The entire deck is non-creature stuffs, minus, of course, the lands, so this is almost guaranteed every single time to actually hit something, so this is essentially a draw card effect, and the more reclamations we have out, the more times we can use Search for Azcanta. It is very easy in the late game for us to know the exact structure of our deck using this combination of Wilderness Reclamation and Search for Azcanta. Because every single time we look 4 cards deep, we put those cards to the bottom, and the game makes sure that it marks what those cards are. So we get to look at the bottom 3 cards of our deck, essentially, are always known to us, which means we know most of the structure of our deck throughout the entire game. And the more Wilderness Reclamation effects we have available, the more times we can use Azcanta throughout a turn. So we'll actually have our entire deck faced up towards the end of the game when we actually win. And by winning, I actually mean that we've stabilized with the Azcanta Reclamation combo, because that is essentially winning. Because what we'll do from that point forward is we'll use Azcanta to find all of our board wipes, which are Settle the Wreckage and Cleansing Nova. We're running Settle because we can exile our opponent's threats, and it doesn't really matter how many lands they have once we have all of our hard counters constantly cycling through our deck. So 4 copies of Absorb gains some life and count as a spell. Really good against aggro. This deck does beat aggro about 50% of the time. So you need a really good hand against, well, you need a pretty good hand against mono red. We have a lot of life gain to make sure that we survive it. So Revitalize is our life gain spell. It's a 2-mana cantrip, gains us 3 life, allows us to go through our deck. Absorbs, obviously gains 3 life as well. That's the average damage that a creature will do from mono red. So we get to basically fog using Absorb in that sense. We also have 2 copies of Sinister Sabotage to get an extra little bit of counter magic in there. Double blue and 1 to counter a spell. Also has Surveil, which works very well with Azcanta. Allows us to look at the top card of our deck, and if we don't like it, put it into the graveyard, which we can always get back later as well. One of the good things about this deck is we get to bin a lot of things quite aggressively with Search for Azcanta and Sinister Sabotage, because Gaia's Blessing lets us shuffle those back in. So if we're on like turn 2 and we don't have the mana for Wilderness Reclamation, although it is the main way that we win the game, we can bin that because we can always shuffle it back in with Blessing later down the line. And we obviously have a chance of just naturally drawing one anyway. The final counterspell is Syncopate, so you might say that we can actually lose the game if our opponent has a shuffle effect in their deck. So we use Syncopate here to counter the spell that allows them to shuffle. So if they're running Gaia's Blessing of their own, we will Syncopate it, which will then exile it instead of putting it in the graveyard, which means this never actually gets to go back through their deck. So in a mirror match, Syncopates are truly the key spell here, and we want to be hitting anything that shuffles the deck. So if we were playing best of 3, which we're not, then we would want to save Syncopate for Nexus of Fate as well. So this deck can actually play in the best of 3s just fine. I even built a sideboard, which is not actually perfect. I'm not sure I want the Seal Aways or anything like that, but there's a few things in here that can be good against, like mono red, bringing in more rituals, some negates, Seal Aways, things like that. So the best of 3 availability is here if you guys want to play it that way, and it does work just fine in that sense. This will always, for the most part, I would say, win against control matchups just because of the sheer amount of counterspells and cycling that we do in this deck. So they're going to be basically giving us all the time in the world to draw all of our counters, and when they want to push, we'll have more counters than them. We run more counters than the average deck does anyway. I think it's about 6 in most counterspell decks, if that. So, you know, we've got 8, and they're going back in with Blessing, so we get to constantly reuse them. So, unlike most counter magic decks, once their 4 absorbs are done, they can't counter anymore. We can Gaia's Blessing and shuffle ours back in. So you might notice Dovin's Acuity here is our actual card advantage engine. This is a 3-mana enchantment. It says when a Dovin's Acuity enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and draw a card. Whenever you cast an instant spell during your main phase, you get to bounce Dovin's Acuity. So we get to replay it, gain 2 life, draw a card. This is how we win against mono red. The ways that we have actually to flip this one is either we counter something on our turn, which would do it, but the main way that we do it is using our Revitalize, as we talked about, and also opts as well. 1 mana, scry 1, draw a card. Allows us to go through our deck, as we mentioned. So what we'll do is we'll play these on our turn, bounce Dovin's Acuity, play Dovin's Acuity. We'll probably have a Reclamation in play as well, so we can do all of this on our main phase, and then on our end step, we untap, which allows us to open up all of our mana to play all of our counter spells. So we really don't mind tapping out during our turn, because we're just going to untap with Reclamation anyway. So it's a really solid card advantage engine once you got that going. We got 3 copies of Binding in here as well, because I've found that the average deck usually runs about 3 major threats, around that bracket anyway, that you have to deal with. So uncounterable things as an example, and Planeswalkers are a bit of a problem as well. So we can bind Planeswalkers like Teferi, we can kill the creatures like Niv Mizzet that can't be countered, Chromium, that kind of thing, really work around that kind of stuff. And we also have like Cleansing Novas for the uncounterable creatures anyway, so it's not too much of a problem. But anything that's going to be a repeatable annoyance for us, we can have Ixalan's Binding come down and slap it down. If it gets mortified, we can shuffle it back in with Gaia's Blessing to reapply it later down the line anyway, when they play that threat once more. So that's essentially the deck. It speaks for itself. We're going to be milling our opponent, and they're very much going to get completely locked out of the game. It's a matter of time as to when they scoop, so the earlier they scoop, the quicker we will win, but there are chances, of course, and you should be prepared for this, that your opponent will never scoop, and you will have to make them draw the entire 60 cards in their deck. So keep that in mind if you are going to play this deck. Make sure you got plenty of free time on your hands, because there is probably going to be somebody who does not like this deck whatsoever and thinks that they're punishing you by making you play it out. So keep that in mind. Mana base is pretty simple. 3 plains, 3 islands, no forests, because we have the absorbs, which are very heavy on colours here. We need the double blue and the white on turn 3, so if I had a forest, I couldn't play this on turn 3, which is very important to make sure that we don't do that. All of our green is actually situated in our non-basics though. 2 hinterland harbours, 4 breeding pools, 3 temple gardens, and a sun petal grove allows us to have all of our blue and white at the right times. Of course, Hallowed Fountain and Glacial Fortresses are both 4-ofs, because this is a base blue-white deck. We're only splashing green for Gaia's Blessing and Wilderness Reclamation, so throughout the game we technically only need 1 green source, which is why we're running all of our green in our non-basics as well. So that's essentially the deck. Let's go into some games, and before we do, make sure to like if you do enjoy this kind of stuff. It helps out the channel a great deal, lets me know you want to see more content like this in the future. I'm sure this is going to be kind of a 50-50 on love it and hate it, you know. This is going to be, it's going to be one of those. But yeah, I hope the people who love it, and I hope the people who hate it, you can dislike my video. It helps my channel anyway, so you can do that. Alright guys, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the games. Alrighty then, we're in, and strangely we have no blue mana, which is very odd for this deck. But the hand is actually reasonable. I wouldn't really care for 2 Citrus Canters, but I don't know. I think we'll mulligan this one. It's too sketchy. This one's also quite sketchy, but we can do turn 1 Temple Garden, maybe scry into a blue source for turn 2 Search for Canter. That's powerful enough as a good start. Getting green mana, make sure that Wilderness Reclamation can come down on 4. I'm going to take this, but it is a wee bit sketchy. Definitely want to bottom that. And yeah, it's just going to be tap land go. Where's our blue mana? 2 hands without it. It's very odd. Alright, we're up against the Blue Menace. Don't know about this one. Alright, well, we get Revitalize, which gets me some informations. The good old 13 mana mono red. So let's Revitalize and get some life. Getting up to these board wipes is going to be absolutely crucial. We really do not want to take any kind of creature damage. And then if we can start bouncing acuities back and forth, that's when we win. There we go, that's what I want to see. Alright, get Citrus Canter down. Filter out all of the crap. Make sure we get the good stuff. And we're basically going to dig for a land for Settler Wreckage, I guess. Syncopate. Definitely Graveyard. Gonna have to take some damage for this, but damage I shall take. Taking 2 here is better than taking the horrendous amount we're gonna take there. We could wait a little bit and take the damage depending on how much it ends up being. Just because we get to maybe make a land drop next turn and Nova, which doesn't give them lands. It's a thought. But honestly, I think we can fight a deck that's got a lot of lands like this. They don't exactly make good use of it, it just means they've got live draws. Oh, if they're just going to do that, I'm just going to do this. Definitely want to bomb that. Anything that's not a land is unacceptable. Well, I guess maybe a Revitalize is acceptable. Just because it's life gain. Yeah, we want to cycle that through. It's another cantrip anyway. Binding. Got to have a look at another card, which is another Settler Wreckage. Now they know for a fact that we have it, and we miss our land drops. Good stuff. Everybody loves missing land drops. Alright, well. Pass the turn. Just needed a land. We saw so many cards there. Couldn't find it. We are going to flip Citrus Canter, though. Kind of likely, anyway. Yeah, we'll let this go. We don't want to drop our Settler Wreckage. And I'll take it. It works for me. Floats the mana. Grabs a mountain and doesn't do anything with their mana because they didn't hit full control mode. Where's the land? Graveyard. Transform. There's a land. Do it this way instead. I'm probably just going to Binding the Steamkin. Yeah, it keeps them off extra mana. Stops them from just completely emptying their hand. It's 3 damage that we're going to avoid. I mean, we could just die next turn anyway, but I don't think that there's going to be much that changes that. And we're in a sketchy but somewhat reasonable spot. Going down to 8. So we get a land drop. And we get to Cleansing Nova and hold Search. Better than nothing. Ugh. We just haven't found much of our life gain. We found like 1 Revitalize, is that right? 2 Revitalizes, actually. That's my son. What is he doing over there? Ooh, very nice. Very nice indeed. Let's see. Yeah, this works out okay. My end step stop. Excuse me. Well, I guess I didn't need all that extra mana, did I? It's not as if this is a really clutch situation where it could be life or death from a single mistake game. But I appreciate you feeling that I'm good enough to not need that untap step. Sure. Legend rule. I don't know what purpose that serves. I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. Alright, well, another binding. Yeah, another binding for Squee is very nice. Yeah, Magic Arena does a weird thing. And it is very weird. Do I want to keep that? 2, 3, 4. I can't play binding on the same turn, so I think no. It would be extra untaps, but it's not something I need. Yeah, it does a weird thing where it's automatically decided you've already skipped your turn, so by stacking stops, it actually forgets. Even though it says you're here, you're actually here. It's really stupid. So you've got to know that it's going to screw you, essentially. Alright, bind the Squee. No more of that. I know how to beat my son. And binding is the best way to do that. That sounded really weird. Didn't mean it that way. I don't have any children. Probably won't for a very long time. But, yeah, I know how to beat Squee. Not my child. Do I take this? Down to 4. Yeah, I take this. And start digging for absorbs. Revitalize also works. Actually might revitalize now, use my floating mana. Then we have 6 mana for 2 counterspells. We got a land. Okay, we're going to have to use our counter magic very carefully then, because they've got 3 cards here that are potentially playable. We've bound Steamkin, and we bound the... Yeah, we're definitely going to counter that. We don't want any more damage on board. We've used a fair few board wipes as well and put them in the graveyard. I'll keep the revitalize. Definitely want to keep that. Decline that. Alright, revitalize first. We might get better lands than just a plains. Absorb is awesome. So make a land drop. Do as counter stuff. Get probably Acuity, actually. That's repeatable card draw later down the line. And life gain, of course. We can bind, which is cool. Yeah, we're just going to pass here. We can bind the next threat that is probably a 4 of in their deck. So we've got 30 cards to their 43, 14 left to shuffle in. So they've got to make their decision carefully. And their decision is not to play anything. Carefully thought out. Bad decision. Goodbye, Mono Red. Goodbye. Yeah, you weren't winning that. You were not winning that at all. As soon as you stabilise with Acuities bouncing back and forth and as counter with Reclamation, game's over. There's not much coming back from it. Alright, let's go for another game. Alrighty then, we got the turn 2 Search for Counter again into turn 3 Sinister Sabotage, so it doesn't get too much better than this. This could be an Absorb and it would be better, I guess, but that's about it really. Binding for the first threat. Hopefully they set their threats early. Down to 6 cards. Yeah, I've found that 3 bindings is usually enough to completely lock our opponent out of the game. Just based on, like, how threat dense most typical decks end up being. This is like Guild Gates as an example, so if we hit their Ram, their Krasis, and their Colossus, game's over. They can Expansion Explosion, but will usually make too much life, and obviously flicker through our deck enough for X whatever to not actually matter. If they were trying to mill us using Expansion Explosion. Gotta be careful with it, of course, but this actually looks maybe like the red-black aggro. Okay. So So what do you take here then? Probably the Sabotage, I guess, because that's the one thing I can hold up next turn. But they're going to go with the Binding. It kind of makes sense as well. Ooh, yes, I like that. It makes sense because I can Binding their Freebooter, which gets back whatever I need. Typically, Freebooter wants to take out of your opponent's hand whatever removes the Freebooter, because it's not much good if it's dead, you know. Alright, I think I'll do Temple Garden untapped, so we can potentially revitalize. I don't know why I did that, actually. I should have cleansed. It just looks suspicious, though, chat. That's all we need to do. We need to just look suspicious. We're going to revitalize anyway, so whatever. Orzhov Enforcer. Yep, I'll let that happen. It's only 1 point. We'll revitalize. Go back up to 20. And that's what I'm looking for. Settle the Wreckage allows me to destroy all of these things. So we go land, reclamation, untap, hold up, and settle the Wreckage. And they're none the wiser. I don't think I even want to settle this anyway. I think I just want to counter the living crap out of Judy. And Gaia's Blessing. It's going to have a Sinister Sabotage and a Revitalize. Both are pretty good. Yeah, I'll take it. Gives me something to do on my turn, I suppose. And actually, I could just graveyard this and it would shuffle it all in. Yeah. Does the same job. Alright. Let's revitalize. Syncopate's quite nice. I like that. So now we have Settle Syncopate. We can X4, which means nothing can resolve off of this counterspell. Judith. Yeah, we'll X1 that. Get out of here. Alright. Definitely want to graveyard the land. We need some action. Revitalize is fine. Keeps us in this game a lot longer. Another settle. Alright, so we could settle here, which allows us to get the Ixalan's Binding right back from our opponents, so the next threat that they play, go for it. Next threat that they play ends up getting completely removed from the game. So we might just see a single attack here, which is awesome for us. We really do not care that our opponent's playing around settle. Because playing around settle is what we want from them. Because now they're half attacking. It's almost as though the creature's already been removed. Yep, go for it. Hit me for 1 when I'm on 20 life. It's not effective. Definitely want to dump the land. Transform, absolutely. This is where game over is established, because as Cantor is absolutely busted with Reclamation. And I'm probably just going to grab the Acuity. Yeah, grab the Acuity. Shock in the Breeding Pool, play Acuity. Now any instance we play on our turn bounces Acuity, gets us some card draw. It's pretty nice stuff. Get a land. It is what it is. Yeah, our opponent can't win from here. They can resolve whatever they want, but we're going to cycle counters and settles for the rest of the game, so they'll be out of threats in no time at all. Angrath, go for it.
You're just fuel for the fires of freedom.
Alright. We actually want to just dump the breeding pool first.
No steel.
Swings at me, eh? Alright. Let's get... I think we get Wilderness Reclamation. It allows us to cycle as Cantor an extra time every turn. So I'll get my end step stop. Land, Reclamation. As Cantor. Get Sabotage. Untap. As Cantor. Let's take... could see an argument for both. We'll take Reclamation. Just really lock this game out. And float some mana. As Cantor. Take a counter. And pass. I like where we're at. Make us discard. Alright.
No fire.
Get rid of Settle that they know about. See if we get a double swing, then we get the binding for the Angrath. Kite Sail. Yeah, we'll counter that. I don't want them to know about the Settle, because I really need them to run into it. That's the stuff right there. Ho ho ho, give me my Ixalan's binding back. The power of information, chat. They thought we got rid of our Settle, which made them more comfortable to... Basically, we buttered them up for the plan that we wanted to achieve there. So they get 2 lands, which is fair enough. But now we have hard counters. We also have lots and lots of horrible stuff. So, bind Angrath. No longer an issue.
Start thinking fast.
Wilderness Reclamation. Alright, as counter. Let's take Settle the Wreckage. Float some mana. Play as Canter. Take Syncopate. Float some mana. Shouldn't really be tapping green, but honestly, I'm probably going to leave half of this floating anyway. Yeah, just pass. Alright, 4 counterspells. They know about 3 and 4 of them. Game's over. They cannot win. We cycle through our entire deck repeatedly, over and over and over and over again, until our opponent dies of boredom. Pretty good. Pretty good indeed. Alrighty then, we have lots and lots and lots of counters. I like it. Yep, let's take this hand. It's full of shock lands, but we're probably going to be playing them all tapped anyway for most of the time. Yeah, I'm not going to shock in for an opt here. I don't see too much value in doing that right now. Against the mono black deck, we could see a few hand disruption spells, but we're fine with that. Our hand is pretty resilient to that kind of stuff, so tap land allows us to play opt. Next turn we can play planes and hold up absorbs, and the game's over. If our opponent does literally nothing, we'll counter them for eternity. Alright. Yep, bottom that. Digging for Wilderness Reclamation, for the most part. Let's play a land, pass the turn. We don't really need to use Acuity just yet. We're not going to be using instants to bounce it to our hand. And I want to be able to hold up and stuff for this. I could actually see myself binding this, but right now it's a bit early to do that kind of thing. So I'm just going to absorb it. They got a land and passes. Okay. And same again, really. It's tap land go. When we're not entirely sure what our opponent is doing, Pilfering Imp. A hand disruption creature, eh? Sure, go for it. When we're not entirely sure what our opponent is actually doing, it's best to not fire off the bindings too early. Because they are only finite. We only have 3 options. Okay, so we can do Gaia's Blessing, put Absorb back in the deck. I don't really need the opt right now. They can Pilfering Imp and, of course, take our Counterspell if they really want to. So, for that reason, I'm just going to Acuity. They can have free reign of this hand. Because, honestly, anything that they're going to resolve is going to die anyway. We've got Planeswalker removal, we've got Creature removal. Up the wazoo, and we're going to draw an extra card here. So, what do we get? A Revitalize. Yeah, they're never taking that. It's nice to have. That allows us to bounce the Acuity. So this costs 2 mana to do it? Yep. It's a 3 mana discard spell. I mean, I kind of have to do that for my Orzhov control list, so, you know, drill bit for 3 mana. It's not the worst. However, drill bit for 3 mana, but it has to resolve and survive a removal spell. It's pretty bad. That's why Pilfering Imp doesn't really see play. Except for in weird fringe discard decks like this one. Alright, I'm assuming they're going to take the Absorb because people absolutely hate on Counterspells. They're going to take the Binding. Alright. I believe that means that they think that it is going to stay in the graveyard. So we get to untap. We could have actually floated the mana there and done a 1 mana revitalize. Gutter Bones. Yep, that resolves. They want to get rid of the binding so that these Gutter Bones can stick around, I guess, then. But we have Settler Wreckages, so they're not going to stick around for very long. And honestly, I reckon that's just bait, because they know about this counterspell. Yeah, they're absolutely terrified of playing anything. I'm actually not going to revitalize here. The reason for that is because I get to bounce my Acuity if I do it now. So, we're going to draw some cards here. Bounce the Acuity. This is now a 3 mana draw 2... 6 mana actually, draw 2, gain 4. Over 2 turns. Better than nothing. I guess a land drop is okay. Put our counters over here. Settle the Wreckage. Put them with my 3 other board wipes. 2 settles and a Nova. Good luck, opponent. We have Absorb and Settle and Syncopate X1. For whatever that ends up being worth. And happy to take 2 when we're on 30 life. Passes. That's the worst thing they could do. Okay. Well, we're going to go land and pass. Land and pass is basically what we want to be doing. And we want our opponent to do the same as well. Because the longer this game goes on, as control is wont to do, the longer it goes on, the more in control we become. That's why aggro does so well against control. Quite a fair bit of the time anyway. Because control is countering spells and making board wipes, because the longer the game goes on, the more they strengthen their hold on the game. So like, I'm making additional land drops, and as soon as I find an Azcanta, this game is completely locked out. But for now, my opponent is not playing anything because they're afraid to have it countered. But in so not actually playing into my counterspells, they're giving me the opportunity to just draw more. So it's really not helping them. They need to eat my counterspells away. This 2 damage a turn is not a threat enough. They already know that I have these settles, and the fact that I'm letting them hit me here just goes to show that I really don't care that I'm taking this damage. So Doom Dissenter is also not worth my time. So I'll go land and pass. This is looking like a better settle target, but I can take 3 for a while. Like a single counter and I've undone a turn's worth of damage as it currently stands. Yep, happy to. The best thing that they can do is force me to tap out in a way that I don't really want to. And one of those ways is by forcing me to do Settle the Wreckage so I can't hold up and 2 counterspells. Which allows them to play one thing, get it countered, and maybe resolves the second thing. Land tapped, go. Still above our starting life total. They can Field of Ruiners here, which thins our deck. Field of Ruin's kind of a powerful effect against us later in the game when we've got our Azcanta flipped, but right now, doesn't make any difference. They should actually hit our green sources, because I don't have any forests, but they don't know that. All of my green mana is actually in non-basics. Basically for this reason alone, this right here. Do not want to hit a forest. Alright. Down to 20. Wilderness Reclamation. Okay. I feel like I might actually fire off a Settle this time because I'm about to start discarding turn size if my opponent plays nothing. And Nova on Gutter Bones isn't that good. So I'll give my opponent some more lands. I'm happy to do that. Got 5 cards in our graveyard. We need about 7 in there. But it's not It's not entirely necessary. So we're going to settle them here. Let's see if they try to double resolve something. Following this up. Or are they going to kill their creature? You know about the other settles. Yeah, they're going to try and kill their other creature. I'm fine with that. We have 2 other settles, so it's not doing them much good. If that's their biggest threat and the reason why they're momenting it, then we've got nothing to worry about. Temple Garden taps. Alright. I'd like some card draw. Some filtering. As Cantor is our win con now, I guess we could use Gaia's Blessing to put some of this stuff back in, like some of our card draw effects. And obviously we want to target Gaia's Blessing with Gaia's Blessing. Yeah, you can have that. It doesn't threaten me. It don't scare me. Land go. And they absolutely need to play these kind of spells. They need to convince me to play my counters. Because without it, the real threats in their hand are never gonna stick. Which is why I'm also letting these Chupacabras and things go, because I can get 2-for-1 potential on my Novas and settle wreckages and things like that. So, yeah. Use my life total as a resource. Alright, here comes Gutterbones. Yep. Pilfering Imp. You can not have that. Let's X4 this. This is attacking my hand. I'm not very, I'm not up for having my hand attacked. Thank you very much. And we get to still hold up and double absorb. Come on now. Give me an actual card. I've got several turns to find one. But still, this is getting annoying. As I'm sure my opponent is getting quite annoyed as well. Trying to dance around all of my removal spells. I will take 4. Yep. Maybe I actually get that other settle out of here. I don't think I need to just yet. I don't feel like they're going to commit much to this board though. So this might be the best settle I'm ever going to get. Until I've actually cast one. There we go. Dovin's Acuity. Bit of a card draw. Hit me an instant, please. That is an absolute nuttiest of card draw. If we get that. It's another absorb. Okay. Well, that's better than nothing, I suppose. Alright. Yeah, I think I'll settle these 2. Since Gutterbones gets some better settle value than the average creature. Come at me, bro. So we get the double attack. I'll give them the settle. They've been wanting it for a while now. Another moment of craving on their Gutterbones. Go for it. There's literally no other application for these spells anyway, so it is a good play to make. But they need to deal damage to me before Gutterbones can actually come out of the graveyard, so as long as I avoid that, I don't ever have to deal with this anyway. It's almost like it's been settled to begin with. Sabotage. That is, as counters go, the best one for this situation. It allows me to surveil and hopefully get rid of the dead card for next turn. And they will play something into this, because they have no pressure. Oh wow. That's a good way to lose. Alright. Bounce the Acuities. Get digging. And Syncopates. Yeah, sure. I'll take it. We don't actually need Azcanta to close this game out. The sheer amount of counterspells that we have in hand right now is going to do that for us. But it's just nice to dig a little deeper, you know? Untap some stuff. Discard a land. Put my 5th counter over here. Doom Dissenter. No. Bin that. Next. I only did that. Ooh, this is an absorb. This is an absorb option because it's discard, so I'm losing something if I don't counter this. That's a good card for them. Still got 3 counters to go though. Khan. Nope. X2. Exile that bad boy, so Eldest Reborn isn't an option. Or a good option. We get to opt, bounce our acuities. And a Revitalize lets us do it again. So we'll take the Revitalize. So we play Dovin's Acuity. Dovin's Acuity. Dovin's Acuity. And we actually don't have enough mana to bounce here, so I'm just going to Hollowed Fountain taps. Pass. Up at 29. 20 cards in our deck, they've got 33. We just need to find our Guy's Blessings so we can start shuffling stuff in. And we get to unflip that madness over. Yep, not happening. 8 mana. Wow, that's all 4 of them. I'll let this one go because we have a Plains in hand. They also don't have anything to attack me with, so let's Revitalize. See if I can just get a land. Sweet. That's better to discard. I get to keep my Counterspell and my board wipes. And we fill back up. Triple Acuity. There's so much synergy in this deck that just would not be possible if I ran win cons. Look at all these Acuities I get to play. And then I get to untap and hold up on all the counters that I've just drawn. It's pretty busted. Acuity. Land. Reclamation. Alrighty then, we're at 41. 20 cards in our graveyard. So our deck is effectively, what, 34 right now? To their 31. That's how you can see it. We're just going to pass. There we go. That's the game. That's how we win. Revitalize. Bounce the stuff. Just looking for Guy's Blessing so I can start shuffling some of my counters back in because we have used a fair few of them. The Wilderness Reclamation. Good God. Yeah, I might as well play all 4. We're going to know pretty much the entire contents of our deck, I think, by the end of the next turn. So Guy's Blessing, put Guy's Blessing, absorb, back into our deck. And draw the absorb. Okay. Do some mass untapping. And yeah, that'll do, pig. Game over. Transform, graveyard. Alright, so we got 11 cards in our deck. Let's go hunting, shall we? Take the absorb. Put these like so. And Dove's Acuity. There's Guy's Blessing. So we Guy's Blessing. Shuffle some stuff back in. We'll take Guy's Blessing. Counter. And counter. Our entire deck will be Counterspells by the end of like next turn. We'll let this one go. Actually, we could just play the Acuity. Why not? Another search. Sure. Alright. Start doing the degenerate Wilderness Reclamation float. Let's as Canter. Take Absorb. Put these like that. Float just this mana. I won't need to float again, although the option will be available to me. And I think my opponent's hoping that I mill myself, but if they know how Gaia's Blessing works, it's just not going to happen. Yep, take Gaia's Blessing. Put these like that. Untap. Let's counter. Take Counterspell. Put these exactly like that, yep. Untap. Take Binding. Put these like that. And pass. Discard. You. Get rid of all those known cards. 6 cards in our deck. We know the order. Alright, let's keep it on top. Not transform. Let's scramble the order. Get a Gaia's Blessing. Counter. And counter. And just pass. Not even going to do that. Don't need to. Get rid of Binding. So we can even do Search for a Canter, and if we see Gaia's Blessing on top, just bin it, and 21 cards will instantly just go into our deck. So, I mean, we could, in theory, just, like, as Canter to set up the top of our deck. Like that. Decline. Have a good old shuffle. Pass the turn. And it's a matter of when our opponent wants to scoop. If they want to play this out. I've never actually had anyone make me play this out. But if you've noticed, the size of our deck is exactly the same. Except for my hand is now banning my opponent from playing the game. There is not a chance in hell they can ever resolve anything. So, this might be the salty timer. I think it might be. If you were truly salty, you'd play this out. It'll take much longer. There it is. Good stuff. Yeah, we get to see what? Let's see. We get to look at 4 cards. So that's 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 cards. We get to only know our entire deck except for 7 cards. Just on our end step alone with Wilderness Reclamation. So I get to order my deck. And then as I play cards, I can put more counters back in, reorder my deck exactly as I want it. This is what true control looks like. Oh dear. And my opponent is actually, as it currently stands, playing out my win con. Oh my god, he's back. Just in time. Just in time to watch his timer roll on down to 0. There we go. Oh, he's holding it. He's holding it. It's my turn. Okay, I'm going to leave that on top because it's awesome. And, yep, we're going to pass. Put the Revitalize in our graveyard. Maybe you DC'd then. We went down a ×4 timer though. So maybe he's actually just leaving enough time on his clock so that he can stay in this game and run it on longer. Which is also quite fine with me. I got nothing better to do. This is beautiful. So I'm assuming he's going to go just down until the timer runs out and then pass. Who's the real villain here? Me or my opponent? I ask you that. Yep, graveyard that. Cleansing Nova, pass. Dump the Nova. Nothing resolves, so Don't really need to wipe anything. Okay, opponent makes a land drop. Plays reassembling skeleton. We'll let that go, I think. Yeah, we're at 50. I could syncopate it, but then he could resolve things, and we don't want that to happen now, do we? Oh, now he's made his play. Now he's made his play. He runs his timer down to as low as it could possibly go and passes the turn. I see. My win con was established 50 turns ago and he didn't scoop, so he's been wasting both of our times for a long time. Oh. Halfway through the timer and passes. God, this guy's so skillful at salty timing. I've never seen someone so skillful. It's one of the many joys of playing this kind of deck. You see the true salt. This is unheard of levels of salt. Look at this. Usually you get people who run the timer down until the game quits it for them. Not this guy, though. This guy knows how to exploit the timer. It's alright, I got nowhere to be. I've already done my 4 wins for the day as soon as I win this one, so I'm stopping playing Magic for the day. Yeah, let's heat that on top. Pass the turn. And then discard it. I suppose we could settle our opponent so that they have less cards if they grab a land. Yeah, sure. Why not? I'll dump a Sinister Sabotage. Oh, opponent ran out of time. You don't want to do that too many times. So the game will quit for you. Because I'm not milling myself. I'm going to Ascanter and hit that Gaia's Blessing pretty consistently. Shuffle everything back in, discarding to hand size as well, so only ever keeping 7 cards in my hand. Because I'm always going to keep whatever's on top, every single time. Yep, I'll have that. I'll even play it. Look at that. Gives me more mana. More mana! So we'll never actually naturally draw Gaia's Blessing from this point forward. So the actual draw that's on Gaia's Blessing's text never gets implemented. It's never a cantrip. It's purely, I shuffle my graveyard back in. Settle you. I also have infinite settle the wreckages. Moment of craving. Sure. Enjoy. Yep. Oh no. Whatever shall I do? Shall I just go get another settler wreckage? I think I will. I could end step my Ascanter. I mean, I'm ahead on cards anyway, so I could have countered that. Didn't need to. Let's go grab Cell. Oh look! I didn't even know what the top 4 cards were. But somehow, I knew. Ooh, that also works. Bin it though. Don't need it. And they scoop it up. Alright. Goodbye, opponent. 4-0. As you do. 0 win con control. Takes another salty victim. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed today's episode. It's not a very popular archetype at all because of the true trolly nature and the exceptionally long time it takes to win. But this is kind of, you know, for those who enjoy kind of prison-style decks, this is probably right up your alley. It takes a lot of thought to get the early game win as well. The lock itself, it's very unforgiving as far as making mistakes is concerned in the early game. If you make a wrong choice, somewhere down the line you will lose the game. But if you play correctly and let things resolve when they should logically resolve and counter them when they shouldn't, then you actually win pretty much most of the time. I would say that every single time that I've lost with this deck, I've been able to identify the game-losing punt that lost me the game. So I feel like every single game with this deck is winnable, which is pretty unique for some Magic decks because of the nature of how Magic works. But yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed this one. I'm sure I'll get some dislikes on the video all the same, but you know what, this isn't for everyone, but for those who did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like. It lets me know you're enjoying this kind of content and you want to see maybe some more of it in the future. This will be a little bit few and far between because I know it does rattle some chains, you know, but yeah, maybe it'll come back if enough people enjoy the video. So anyway guys, like and subscribe, hit that bell icon, you'll get notifications when I release videos in the future, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.